Welcome to Trading Lounge and the indices. I want to start with the US dollar, the DXY in this particular instance. And because we had the top here in January, roughly, and this is the same as the stock market, generally speaking, and stocks all sort of topping around January sometime, and they both have been moving down together. And on the count to the downside here on the daily chart here, we see that we see wave 1 and 2 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here for the wave 3, and then wave 4 and wave 5. So we've still got another low in here to play out. But what I sort of wanted to just talk about a little bit briefly is that in the bigger picture here, we can view this this whole pattern here as an A and a B and a C wave down here. A, B, C for, it could be another A wave here, or W and an X, and so on at this point. What I wanted to sort of just talk about a little bit is that with the stock market, we're expecting the stock market to basically make a new high above the previous high, the January high here, okay? Whereas the dollar is not going to do that. It's going to sit across the 100 here. I was just listening to Scott Bessent have his speech at the Institute of International Finance, the IIF, talking about the IMF and the World Bank and so on, how they need to sort of reshape themselves and get back on point. So he's looking to strengthen the dollar. Now, obviously, there's a lot of damage done on that, and that will take some time, and we'll need to see some evidence of that. But what my point is that the dollar has followed, the dollar and the stock market have moved together. I think Scott Bessent, his plans is to stabilize the situation. So at minimum, we could expect, it to swing above and below the 100 here towards, up until towards the end of the year at that point, giving support to the S&P 500 and stocks and so on. So now we're looking at the S&P on the daily chart, and we'd called a low in here, and the current move up for the S&P and the Nasdaq hasn't been very impulsive looking, but at the same time we could see 5 waves in the banks and in some of the tech stocks. There are some weak tech stocks as well, that such as Meta and Amazon, that can be testing the low. One of them has already broken that. The other tech stocks are holding up quite nicely. We'll wait for the dust to settle on the 24th today in Australia times, the next session. We've got earnings for a good handful of those, but they're all sort of shaping up to sort of look a little bit bullish as well. And our plan is, even though that our move to the upside here is not the best looking thing, it has stabilized here. It's been here for a good couple of weeks now, so it's at least it's sort of stable here. And the count to the upside here, as I mentioned, can be viewed as bullish or bearish, but we're seeing, banks and tech stocks basically look a bit bullish, so we'll stay on the bullish side. And what we're waiting for at the moment is that for day traders, we've called day traders to be long, but for swing traders and trend traders, what we're waiting for is this move up here to complete. So we're looking for an impulse wave moving up here, and then a pullback here, and then we'll be looking as an ABC pullback. We'll be looking to go long here, but also too we'll be getting in early into this little leg over here. So we're waiting for a top, and the 5 here in terms of the trading levels, not so much the 5,000 in this case, but the 500, 5 being the second strongest number. The market's not going to go far from that point there, so it'll pop its sort of head up above that and top and then drop, and that's what we're looking for. Now, how far this will pull back here will also be a little bit of a mystery. We can look at the 61.8% retracement level and so on. We'll talk about the intraday move on that in a moment. if I just bring in the intermediate count here, this is basically we're looking for wave 1 up here and wave 2 to pull back here and then moving to the upside there. Okay. The alternative count for this in the bigger picture, which we should look at as well, let's just assume for a moment that this market stays in line with the US dollar. Well, in that case, it would look a little bit more like this here, where we have a move more like this here, and then down here, and then up at this point. But we don't need to go there yet, but it's just something that's in line with the dollar, and it needs to be sort of pointed out, but we'll sort of we'll look at that. I don't think that's the case, because with the tech stocks, we're looking at this move that we're seeing up here. We're seeing stocks like Netflix is a really strong stock to the upside. I'm still looking at Bitcoin as being a tech stock. On an intraday basis, it's got the same pattern as the tech stocks. It had the low at the tech stocks here, and Bitcoin is probably, if we just have a little quick look at that for a moment here, just to get a bit of an idea. So you've got, because you may not sort of watch those videos, let's just go into the 1 hour chart here for a moment, and we can just drop some of these tags back in here. But basically, like the US markets, the indices and so on, we're looking for wave 1 up here and wave 2, so we're looking for a top to come in. But all this pattern here, when it started from the lows here, is the same as the indices here, and all these moves here are all the same as the, Google and Microsoft and all the rest of them. They're all the same, except this one is a little bit sort of stronger. But we're counting that 5 waves up here. If we get 5 waves up here, because this market follows, is in tune with the Nasdaq, it's just strong looking. That's the only difference. But we've also, it's not alone. Like we've got Netflix here doing the same sort of thing as well here. So Bitcoin's not isolated, and it's not decoupling or detaching from the tech stocks intraday patterns. It is moving up quite nicely, but stocks like this are doing the same thing as well. So coming back over to the indices here, let me just bring this up here, coming back into this market here, we also have, what's other ones that are moving up nicely are the DAX and the FTSE and the Australian market. So this particular pattern that we're looking at with the S&P here on the hourly chart, even though it's not bullish looking, I've always, pointed it out that it should reshape itself into a bullish pattern in line with the rest of the stocks. It was just hard to see it at that point, but now the market is moving up. Folks will think, well, gee, we could have a low in place, so we start sort of, building it that way. But it's just good to see that it's all moving in the right place here. So on the 1 hour chart here, we're looking at, we're looking for this wave 1 to the upside here. Now this can be counted a bit differently as well, and we'll look at that on the Nasdaq, how we could count this differently here. There's actually 2 different ways to count this differently here. We could go 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 here. We could also put this, you see how I've jammed wave 4 and 3 and 4 up in here. I reckon that in a lot of cases we could call this other move that's come down here, this can be counted in 5 waves here. So we can put wave 1 over here as well. But if this had 5 waves down here, we had this spike here. If we took away the spike, then we've got 5 waves here. So this could be wave 5 low over here. So this could be intermediate wave 1 here already with intermediate wave 2 here. And then going up for 1, instead of pulling back this far for wave 2 over here, right? We could end up having a smaller move here, as I've explained before, in terms of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here as wave 1, and then a smaller ABC back here, and then up again at that point. That's why we're going to, once we've got that fifth wave in the top here, we'll go long above that. And then what we'll do is look for the second high here, and we'll go long at that point. So, and if we do drop down here, then we'll build up. We'll look for the first impulse wave at this point here, and look for a classic trading levels pattern over here. So there's a few ways that this could play out here, but I'm aware of them all, and we'll be all over it. So. Like I said yesterday, we had an impulse wave up off the low here. So getting an impulse wave here, we should get another one. So we've got the other one. And I mean, we can just have an ABC pattern here and come down from this point. That's quite possible. But otherwise, we'll have this impulse wave finish here. And if that's the case, then we can start with our long trades from the top at this point. So we can look at this in terms of... just on the 15-minute chart here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We could drag this over to here because we're talking about that. In some cases, it's dropping below. In other cases, it's not. But still need another little move to the upside there, and then we'll start working all of that, and we'll put that over there as the ABC for wave 2. But we're going to get it over here. We're going to pick it up over here if we get this deeper pullback over here. Let's have a look at the futures market on this. So that's not the futures market. We need to give that a click. There we go. Close that off. Obviously, the futures market trades a little bit, outside of market hours a bit. So this is the 5 waves up here. We've got 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the third, fourth, and fifth. So we're looking for one more top in this case, and then an ABC pattern. Now, if I've made a mistake here, we'll get 2 tops to come into play, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just need to work through that. But as far as the crow flies, I think we're on the sort of right track over here. If you were long over here, then you can just exit that there, we just talked about yesterday. The day traders can go long, but the swing traders and trend traders just have to chill and let the market come to them. We don't want to go chasing it. But that's basically sort of where we are on the on this market here for this. So yeah, look, I get it. This this move here is like, it can certainly be counted as corrective. And like I said, there's some tech stocks that have already taken the low out down here, and some others that will. When this wave 2 pulls back here, this is when some of those tech stocks, or even other stocks that you may be looking at, could make a new low there as well. So we'll need to be a bit mindful of that. But we've got a fair way to go before we can look for long trades at this point. Okay, let's move along to the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ I've got counted differently, just as an example of what I mentioned in the S&P 500, where we don't pull back so much. In that case, we look at from the low here, we look at this as 1 and 2, and 1 with an ABC for 2 here, and then up for 1 and 2 here, and then move up stronger. So instead of expecting that larger pullback coming into play here, that we end up having a shorter one coming into play. So we'll start at the top, and then we'll drop it down to this one here. So we basically need to work the long trade from the top down in this case. The other count here, of course, is we could call this the low in place with an impulse wave here, and put wave 1 here and this wave 2 over here. So there's a couple of ways to look at it all. I just try to get, when you look at the US banks, you'll see that they've got most of them have got, you'll see 5 waves up here, making a new high above this one here. So they're all slightly differently. Some have got a really nice 5-wave structure to the upside, some haven't. So, but we need to work the majority of the count, round that up into one count, and that's what we've done, and it's kept us pretty safe, and it's kept us on point, and we'll just continue to do that. So this is obviously the cash market here, so we need to go over to the futures. We'll look at putting into the portfolios when we go to trade long. We'll put the triple Q in and the SPY in on that into that portfolio, and yeah, I won't go into that too much at this point, but okay, so I don't know if you've got to go long there, but we don't need that there, so we'll just remove that. And we're looking for this is the futures market. So I've got this here in terms of 1, 2, 3 here, and ABC for 4, and then looking for wave 5 up here. So once again, we've got 1, 2, we can change that to the next degree higher. So we can look at this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. I think that's pretty straightforward at this point. So we just got to, day traders can once again trade this up here, but then we're looking for, we'll either have a small A, B and C pattern to go up here, or we're going to have something much bigger where we'll have this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, A, B, C here, and then the B, and then wave 2 here, and then up at that point with this wave 2 here, and we can just put in this ABC pattern here for this. So we've got a bit of work to do over here, but we'll just wait for the top and the drop, and then we'll start working it down. And I really need to see where other markets are at this point as well. Do you know what I mean? How they working through this situation. The idea though is to get a small position below the 20,000 here somewhere, and then build on top of that through group 1 here, 1, 2 and 3 over here. So that will be our sort of aim for the futures market and for ETFs as well. And Simon's doing a good job with the US ETFs. He's been chomping along. He's a medical student, so he's had to do a few exams, but he's back on track. So we're covering 25 ETFs and so on. So you can chat to him. He's back online, and let's move along from the US over to the European markets. Okay, so this is the DAX, this is the cash market. We'll look at the futures market in a moment, but this has got the sort of basic count at this point for it. I don't like the idea that this wave 3 here is, hasn't really gone much above here, and on the futures it's actually a little bit lower. So I'm not quite sure I got this quite right yet, but at the end of the day, the DAX and the FTSE and all that will top with other markets. So we're still looking for this wave 1 up here. Do you know what I mean? So I might need to just sort of tweak this a little bit, but we're looking for that pullback. And what I'm really looking for is not so much the pullback here. I'm just looking for the top in stocks and mainly I'll just keep it simple in stock. I won't go into the other markets that shape things, but we just look for that top and then that pullback, and then we can move in. Now, also what we're going to do as well is that we've got the different analysts tab here that you can go check all the analysts' work in here and look at all their wave counts and all those sort of things. We're going to put another tab in here where the analysts can, if they see a trade set up, they're going to be able to push it through to a tab as well. I'll still push it through to this is our portfolio here. I'll still put it into trade recommendations in here, but eventually those push throughs from the charting program will come straight through into the trade recommendations here as well. Nitin is still working on the dividend dashboard here. We're doing some other things in that, but that's looking good. So yeah, just a little bit of an update on those sort of things there. But that's it on the cash market. Let's just have a look at the futures market here. So from the low here, I've got this slightly different as 1 and 2 here, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the third wave up here in the fourth wave, because I got to finish it with the off with the US markets. I need to see some sort of top come into play. So I might need to sort of tweak this a little bit, but I don't particularly want to look for any sort of long trades here at the moment. Even though we can go high, we just need this pullback over here. Let's have a look at the FTSE. So this is just the futures market here on ICE, and once again, this the FTSE's been, it's been going really well, hasn't it? It's really made some ground, and once again, we're looking for a top here as well. So I'll just put that up there. But basically 1 and 2 here I've got, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So third and fourth here as the A, the B and the C here. It's a little bit sort of wild there, but anyway, you can go on to, you can go into here and see this chart here and see how I've counted things. But I could end up getting 2 more highs here, but I think looking for one more decent sort of high here than the ABC pattern at this point. So we'll just see how that sort of plays out. I could end up with like 2 more highs here. Instead of having 1 more high, I could get 2. So I'll just see. But I'm not that... The 500 here, not so much the 8,000, but the 500 here is going to hold the market here for quite some time. So on the upside and the downside. So we don't really need to do much. We'll just let it sort of develop. And I really want to see where US tech stocks are and where the banks are, and the indices, which are kind of moving averages of all of these sorts of things as well. So but the FTSE's got a mind of its own, and it could continue to climb as well. If we do see a setup on the 8.5, we will take it, because it will take us up to group 2 at the 86. Well, the next number after 5 is 8, the Fibonacci sequence as price ratio, so 1, 2, 3, 5 and 8. But when we talk about 8, we talk about group 2, and so group 2 here will be 86.50 and 87.20. So that 86.50 will be the important point to the upside there. Rightio, let's have a look at the Aussie market. So if you're not out of this trade here, you can just put the stop up to this point through here. We've got a nice little ABC pattern through here. I don't know if we're going to get a squeeze out of that. Yeah, we could get one more low out of that. So if you just want to just keep that under the 5.9 there for a moment, just based on that high there of 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this could be a 4th wave here, and pull down here one more time, and get that squeeze there. But I'm just going to clear this off here now. I don't really need that. I mean, the idea was just to get out before the 8,000 there, but once again here we should have looking for one more push to the upside here in one way or another. 5 waves up. How far it goes up I don't know, but I'll just take it to the 8,100, because it's not going to go much past that, and then we're looking for some sort of ABC pattern for this as well here. So I'll just leave that there. But yeah, all in all, it's it's the same pattern as the FTSE. Not quite as strong, but and the same as the DAX and all the markets. When markets are in fear, they all look at each other and start panicking, and they all run together. So that's basically what's sort of happening here. Of course, we could count this differently as well here. I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, this 8,000 here, the 4th strongest number, is going to 3rd strongest number, 1, 5, and then 8. So this number here is definitely going to be holding the market here. So in one way or another, we're going to get one of the 3 patterns here. Well, we can pretty much get rid of the 3rd pattern, and we'll just be left with this pattern here. So the arrival, the reaction, the first high above the level at the 8,000, and then a drop below the 8,000, and this is where we need to be for long over here. It may not drop below the level if I've made a mistake in some way or another, so it may not drop below the level. That's the 2nd pattern. But we'll start from the top, and then we'll work down to the next level here. But I want to see a correction, because the correction is really... there's a lot of emotional things we can talk about within a correction, but basically it's where the next trend is engineered from, and we need that accumulation process to rebalance that distribution process. So we want a reasonable correction here. So don't get involved in it. Don't try to trade around it, because this is where bigger orders will come in, and you'll be squished and squashed out of, this is where you lose money. You have to let a market mature at a big number, at really any number, and then move into it. When you recognize it, it'll come to a point where it can only be, 1 or 2 things, and then you can be tactically cautious at that particular point in time. Alrighty, enough waffling. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.